I want to share with you my story of healing after rape, healing after sexual assault, because maybe you need to hear that it's possible. Maybe you need to hear that someone else made it from extreme darkness and fear to light and freedom. Maybe you need to hear that someone else has made their way through, and this can serve as encouragement or hope for you. I want to share this because the path was fascinating and brilliant and remarkable and full of surprises, and because I don't think anyone could have told me exactly what to do. There were so many unique aspects of my path of healing, but I want to share it with you because you'll see that while I'm not telling you to mimic my path, but rather to see that the thing that guided me is available to all of us. It's God, it's intuition, it's the body, it's available to all of us. So while your path might not look like mine, we might have similarities, our paths might be completely different or very much the same, who's to say? But what I hope you'll see is that there was a wisdom within, around, in my body, in my belly, showing me the way. And I think it's available to all of us. So I hope you stick around and hear the whole story and see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that I believe that light is available to all of us. So yes, I was raped at the age of 16 by a peer, by someone I knew. I was at a party. I had been drinking. He had not been drinking, which I later found out. And it happened in front of a crowd of people I knew, my peers. I was very confused by the event. I was young. I was 16. I was going into my junior year of high school. I was in a haze about it. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated, but I was confused. It was summer, so I didn't see all these people all the time until we returned to school. And when I returned to school, some of the boys who watched the assault would kind of tease me about it. They would talk about, I go like this because some of them would whisper in my ear what it was like to watch me get assaulted. And they would kind of say it in this like they were getting joy out of it. And the way I responded to that was I would leave my body. I wouldn't say anything. I would kind of freeze and leave my body to cope. That was the first time I can recall doing that, leaving my body to cope with something. Some other things that I can recall around this time was I told a few of my friends or peers what had occurred, and they were unable to be supportive. They made light of it. They kind of made jokes of it. It wasn't what I needed to hear. I did not tell any adults because I did not feel I had any adults who could support me on the matter. In hindsight, I think I was accurate on that. So I told people my age. You know, I don't blame them for not being able to help me, but they couldn't help me. And when they kind of made jokes about the event, along with the other boys kind of bullying me about the event, I started to internalize it and be like, oh, this is normal. This is what's to be expected. This is part of growing up. It's my fault. This is what happens. I wasn't seeing it from like another perspective. I was seeing it from that. And when I started to see it from that, like, this is life. This is what's to be expected. It's not a big deal. No one cares. That's when I started to kind of lose myself. So prior to the assault, I was already in pain. I was already drinking alcohol. I was already smoking weed a little bit. I was already suffering in some ways. So all my pain was not only from this assault. I can't differentiate exactly where one thing started and one thing ended, but this was definitely a tipping point for me. I started to drink more, smoke more, leave my body more, have bigger emotional outbursts, look for ways to escape more. I kind of started to act more immature. I started to lose myself in this chaos, in this tornado. I was in a haze. There was like a kind of like a veil over my eyes, and I couldn't see the world clearly. I thought, this is life, which it is for many people. A lot of people experience rape or assault in their youth, which is awful. But I thought, there's no other reality. This is the only reality. What's the point? Life is weird. Life is dark. Life is awful. And I started to sink into that belief system. I remember one person blaming me, saying, you wanted this to happen. And then I sank even further in, and I was just not in a good place. I didn't have visions for my future. I didn't have dreams. I didn't see myself going anywhere. I started to think of myself as worthless, as only good for my body, as dumb, as, yeah, that was how I viewed myself. So when I graduated high school, I did go to college, but to be honest, I had no business going to college. I was not prepared. I didn't know how to succeed. I didn't know how to work hard, or even like really write a good essay or do the work necessary. I don't mean that to insult younger me. It just wasn't the path for me, but I thought, this is what everyone else is doing. Hopefully my life will just figure itself out. But actually things got much, much worse. I drank way more, smoked way more, still had no dreams or visions or goals, could not be a good friend or partner or classmate. I was in chaos. And some people will get mad at me for saying that, like, why were you such a mess? You shouldn't have gone to these places. You shouldn't have been such a bad presence in the world. I didn't realize. It's hard to explain. I was in such darkness, and I didn't have the words for it. I just thought, this is life. And I was swirling in a tornado, and I kind of didn't know it. And I didn't know how to get out. I didn't know that was even a way out. I didn't know there was an out to go to. I just thought I was worthless. I was awful. This was my chaotic life. Everyone else has their thing. This is mine. It's hard to have the words for it when at the time you didn't have the words for it, because I'm talking about it from a healed perspective. So to paint a picture is difficult, but if you know, you know. It was just pure chaos. I didn't feel anyone understood. And I didn't even know what I needed to be helped or to help myself. So when I was 19, I got an MIP in the state of Michigan, which is a minor in possession of alcohol. This doesn't mean that I was driving. I was at a party. I was underage. I was drinking. The cops came, and I got a ticket for it. This all ties into the whole story. So I had to go to court. I had to stand before a judge, and she put us all, everyone I was with, on probation for 1 year. Probation included random breathalyzer tests and drug tests and meetings with your probation officer, and it should have been in and out for a year, and that's it. But I was a mixture of not being able to stop drinking, smoking, not caring, slightly entitled, also not realizing I had such a big problem, not realizing people could even see me. It's hard to explain. It's like things just take care of themselves, or it doesn't matter. It was like a mix of low self-worth, but also not being able to take responsibility for my life, but also not caring or not thinking it mattered. It was a mix of things. Like I said, the pain didn't start with the assault. Things came before that, but it all kind of combined to become this perfect storm. So I violated probation again and again and again. I would not show up to a test, or I would fail a test. And what would happen is the court would then contact you, say you need to come back before the judge, and she'll tell you what you need to do. So she kept punishing me by extending my probation. Something I will say that I remember at this time, this might be a long video, all these details are so interesting, is I would show up to court, I would dress up to stand before the judge, and she would always say, "What's a nice looking girl like you doing here? You shouldn't be here." And sometimes when I tell people, but then she would punish me and give me extended probation. Sometimes when I tell people that, they go, "Oh, you have so much privilege. You have it so easy." And it's not to say I don't have privilege, but the way I see that in hindsight is I was greatly suffering. I was a tornado inside. And people can look at you and say, you're fine. What's the problem? But anyone can be raped. Anyone can be assaulted. Anyone can suffer in this way, drink too much, do too many drugs to cope with their pain. It doesn't really matter what you look like. So while it's privilege, I guess, although I was still being punished, I was still on probation. At the end of the day, it's like, does the person in front of you need help? It wasn't the judge's responsibility to fix me, but it's just interesting that our system doesn't necessarily see these things. Anyway, I ended up being on probation for years, 20, 21, 22, for almost like 3.5 years. So it should have been a 1-year thing. It went for 3.5 years. Until one day, I had to breathalyze the following morning. And I knew because you call this number, this one number, and they tell you if you have to breathalyze the next day or not. And I knew I needed to. And I thought, I'm going to go out and drink and have like a beer with my friends. It'll be fine. Maybe 2 beers. You can have 2 beers and breathalyze in the morning. So I went out drinking, and I just remember I couldn't stop drinking. That was how I drank. I couldn't stop drinking. Never could. And I was up till like 4 or 5 in the morning on the porch, drinking beers. And I woke up in the morning to go to breathalyze at like 8 a.m. And when I showed up, the guy who was breathalyzing me at this spot was like, "You reek of booze." I was like, fuck. And I violated probation. I had to go back to court. I went back in like a month. And she said, enough is enough. You have to go to jail. Mind you, I had already been to jail for a week on 2 occasions from violating probation. But she was like, enough, you're going to go for a month in the county jail. And I went for a month to county jail in Oakland County in Michigan. And this was a huge turning point for me. I don't take this lightly, but in a way I'm grateful it happened because it started this new perspective. Prior to going into jail, I was drinking all the time. And I was starting to feel so like chaotic in my head, as if I wasn't already. But I started to feel like I'm having a breakdown or something. Like I'm losing my sense of reality as I know it. So going to jail, it was a place where I couldn't drink, couldn't smoke, didn't go to school. I was in school at the time. There was nothing to do besides read, chat with people, maybe journal. That's it. It was a meditation of sorts. It was quiet. It was peace and quiet that I so desperately needed. And in the quiet, I started to receive guidance. I started to hear what I needed to do because we need quiet to be able to hear or feel. If we're constantly in the noise, how can we receive direction? So it became clear to me, many things became clear to me in that time. I needed to heal. I needed to leave school. I needed to figure out how to be healthy. I was at the time studying community health education, getting a bachelor's degree, and I remember feeling like a phony. I was always hungover, always drunk, smoking. I was like, how can I study community health education and teach people to be healthy when I'm so far from it? And I just knew when I get out of here, I have to leave school and I'm going to move to Chicago, a place I had previously lived. And that was all from my intuition. I had no real plan. I had no super clear idea. It was just, I'm on a mission now. I need to get healthy. I need to heal. I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what the journey will look like, but this is what I have to do. And no one told me to do this. This wasn't written in a book. It came from within. And I remember trying to put logic on it, being like, okay, this is what I'll do. Boom, boom, boom. I need to have a reason I'm going there. And I remember being like, okay, I'm going to pursue this career, but it wasn't about that. It was just, I need to follow my intuition. It was my logic trying to make sense of it, but I just needed to go. So when I got out of jail, I moved to Chicago. I moved in with some friends and I worked. I dated someone who I knew I shouldn't have dated. And the only reason I bring that up is because my intuition told me, don't date him. But my intuition was new to me. So I wasn't completely confident in trusting it all the time. So it was a practice to learn how to hear this wisdom from within and trust it and follow it. So I worked, I learned how to pay bills, I dated, and that relationship fell apart. And what I decided to do next was go bike touring. And what I mean by that is travel on bicycle. It was something I had heard about a couple years earlier. You can pack your belongings on the back of a bike, a tent, a sleeping bag, and bike and sleep in campgrounds along the way. And that was something that always lit me up. And now that I was out of this relationship, I had this feeling I have to go bike touring. It's a feeling. It's a knowing. I don't know. People want to know why. I just have to. It's just a feeling. I have to do it. So I sold my things, put things in storage, and went biking around Lake Michigan and then up and down the coast of California. And things came together really interestingly. I met a lot of awesome people along the way. I went with a friend who I was introduced to, my mom's friend's daughter. I worked on farms along the way. It was pretty miraculous, actually. God really showed up with all these blessings on that journey. But something that sticks out in regards to healing from rape is biking for long distances, or at all, is like a meditation. It's this repetitive act that can kind of put you in a trance, pedal, pedal, pedal. And we would bike for 8 hours a day. And so I was in this meditation, and when you meditate, things come up. Ideas, creative ideas, old wounds, pain, things you want to work on. And it became really clear to me, okay, my wounds started to become really clear to me. Rape being one of them, and other relationships in my life that I needed to work on. They just kept coming up as I was pedaling. And I made note of that, this is something I need to address. So when I finished the trip, I ended up in San Diego. I'm in this beautiful place. I'm from the Midwest USA, but I was in San Diego, and you might think, why would you leave? I had a place to stay, but my intuition told me you have to go back to Chicago. And I listened, and I went. And now I showed up with a clearer head, more intention. Was I still unhealthy in many ways? Yes. Chaotic in many ways? Yes. But clarity was coming. Things were coming together. My intuition was guiding me. I was starting to trust it more. I knew it said go to Chicago. Why? I don't know, but I need to go. So I went. I got a job. I worked at a restaurant. I made friends with this gal. We got to know each other. And then one day I told her, hey, I'm looking for a resource that could help me heal from sexual assault. I don't know if it exists. I don't know where it exists, but I'm just putting it out there in case you know of anything. And she didn't. And the fact that I even told her that is so interesting. It's like I was guided to tell her. Not a week later, she came up to me. She said, hey, I heard of this place. It was a nonprofit in Chicago. They help with survivors of sexual assault. I was like, whoa, okay, that worked out. So I called them. They offered art therapy for survivors of sexual assault, and for group and one-on-one therapy and other types of resources and conversations. And they help people in the court system, and they help people navigate all aspects of healing. And I called them and I said I was interested in therapy. They said, well, we have art therapy. And I said, but I'm not an artist. And they said, they were polite, but they were like, everyone is. It's okay. You don't need to be an artist. Just come if you're interested. So I signed up for one-on-one therapy. My body wanted me to go. So I said, okay. And I met the best therapist in the world. And I don't say that lightly. She was phenomenal. Such a safe space. And that was the first time I ever really could tell someone what happened, and I wouldn't be judged, and she would make space for me to open up. And it was really scary. I felt so vulnerable. I was so triggered. I was out of my body, but she, helped me. And so specific, like she was specifically there to help survivors of sexual assault and rape. And we used art in the process. I didn't grow up an artist. I didn't pursue the arts, even though I always wanted to. So many of us want to dance and sing and paint and play music, and we don't because we're told it's a waste of time, you can't make money, it's silly, so we forget about it. It's a childish thing, so we forget about it. I always wanted to dance. I always wanted to do everything. And when I showed up to therapy, she said, okay, pick what mediums you want to do, what kind of thing do you want to make? And from within me, I had the idea to wrap sticks that I find outside in colorful threads. I felt kind of embarrassed, but she was like, great idea. So I would wrap these sticks while she and I would talk. And I don't really remember the science behind it, but as I can recall, art helps to access the other part of your brain and trauma, because trauma, you're in survival mode. So there isn't necessarily language to access that experience. And the art helps to kind of bridge the gap. You'll have to look that up. I don't remember exactly. But I was happy to be making art and wrapping sticks. And I healed so much in that space from using my voice and telling my therapist the story. And she was so good. And then she invited me to go to group art therapy. And I was scared because I was like, I don't want people to see my art. I don't want to be vulnerable in that way. It's humiliating with other people. It's like 12 people. But I thought about it and I was like, it's actually the right thing for me. So I went. And I did that for maybe a year with women. And you would show up and you could pick whatever art supplies you wanted to work with. And you'd get a prompt, you'd make something, you'd talk about it, you'd share it with the group. It was vulnerable. I heard stories. I learned you can't compare trauma. I shared my art with people. I made a mess. I learned it's okay to make a mess. I learned it's okay to be bad at something. I learned that good art comes from the soul. I learned that some of the best art I've ever seen is in group therapy because it's so pure. I learned that art is fun and it's okay to share, and that there's good people everywhere, and that some women have been through some things. And it was so healing, and it just kept going, and opportunities kept arising. I got involved with a project where you could tell your story through painting your body, and an artist would come in and paint your body and photograph you, and then there was like an art exhibit. These are things I never imagined doing. But when they came up, they felt so right. Younger me, I was afraid of being seen. I was afraid of being noticed and looked at, and I wanted to hide. I wanted to have no one look at me. I didn't want anyone to know who I was. I was humiliated to exist. So all these experiences helped me to work through that. And they just always helped me to grow, and it took one step at a time. I got involved with this other nonprofit that was an art gallery that helps survivors of sexual trauma. This was in Chicago. And they had workshops and classes, and I volunteered, and I was in an art exhibit, and they had an artist grant, and I applied for it because someone encouraged me to, and I was like, I can't apply for an artist grant. I'm not an artist in that way, but I really wanted to take dance classes, and I applied and I got it. So I got to take tap dance classes for free. Who would have thought that was even something that was out in the world? And the thing about tap dancing that was so interesting is it's so loud. It's so loud that it's healing to do it. It's so loud because when you tap, even when you walk into the dance room in your tap shoes, you're making a fuss. You're making a noise. You're letting your presence be known. When you make a mistake, everyone knows because they can hear it. When you do well, everyone knows because everyone can hear it. You cannot hide. That was really scary for me. But you work through it, and you're not there alone. There's other people in the class who are afraid to be seen and heard too, but you take the next step and grow. And all these experiences just kept helping me to grow and heal and gain confidence and be willing to be seen and heard and a little embarrassed and vulnerable and open and healthy. I just kept getting stronger. I was meeting community. I was getting comfortable just in conversation or being open, being vulnerable. Yeah. Now, a couple things worth noting. It wasn't all this journey. I was working in restaurants throughout this time, which was really important for my healing and growth because it was a practice of being seen, of being heard, of making mistakes, of using my voice, of getting stronger and healthier. And that worked in relation to this journey. But at the same time, throughout all of this, I was still drinking and I was still in toxic relationships. But I was growing. I was learning language to have these conversations. I was developing new life skills, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to care for my health, learning how to be a better advocate for myself. So I was growing, but I wasn't done. Are we ever? But I was very aware of it. So at one point I got involved in a pretty rough relationship. It was quite toxic. It was dangerous. It was unsafe. So even though I had gone through this journey of traveling in therapy, one-on-one, group, making art, participating in the community and art exhibits and dance classes, and I'd grown so much, I got involved in a really dangerous, bad, toxic relationship. What gives? Where's the growth? Why did that happen? When I got out of it and I felt beaten down, I was like, I've done all this work and nothing has changed. It wasn't true, but that's how I felt. Nothing has changed. What is happening? And I felt like I had backtracked. And I went back to one-on-one therapy at this nonprofit with a different therapist because my previous therapist had left. I met with this wonderful therapist and we worked through some things and we talked through some things. And at this time, I had developed physical symptoms. I couldn't keep food down. I was in physical pain. I was scared. I thought I was sick. I thought I was dying. I was in and out of the doctor. And then I started to look up stories from people who had healed their body of disease naturally. Now, I won't go into that too much right now. I can another time, but I was listening to these stories again and again and again of people who healed their bodies without pharmaceuticals and did so naturally. And there were a lot of commonalities among all of them: exercise, lifestyle changes, diet, etc. But one thing that really stuck out to me is that all of these people chose to forgive. They chose to forgive people who had harmed them. They chose to forgive people who had hurt them. And they chose to free themselves from that resentment and bitterness that they had been holding on to. And I thought, that's so interesting. I need to do that. I need to forgive. And it became clear to me that I had been holding on to bitterness and resentment over what had happened to me when I was 16 and what had happened to me in that most recent relationship and so many things in between for so long. I was so angry. I was so bitter. I was so resentful. I was holding it in my body. I was spewing out hatred and acting like that was my strength. That made me a strong survivor. That made me a strong victim or something. And it's all part of the journey, right? It's all part of the journey. but I was ready to let go of it. When I heard those people say they forgave, I was like, I need to do that. And I had never forgiven before. Didn't know how, never forgave anyone. And I mentioned it to my therapist, and it became clear to me that she couldn't help me do this. I needed to do it. So I left therapy and I went on my own. And I sat in a room and I learned to forgive. It was new to me. But I forgave the men who had hurt me, who had assaulted me, the people who had watched. I forgave. And I don't say that to be perceived as a saint, not at all. And I don't say this to make anyone else do it, not at all. I say it because it was an essential aspect of my journey, of my healing. Something changed in me that day when I finally learned how to forgive. I felt like I freed my body of something massive, a massive weight I had been carrying. It was tremendous. And it doesn't mean I'm okay with any acts of violence against me or anyone else. It doesn't mean I'm supportive of it. It doesn't mean I forget it. It means I forgive. It doesn't mean I don't get angry about the state of things in the world. It doesn't mean I don't get angry or stick up for people who have been harmed, sexually assaulted, or raped. Of course not. But I have chosen to forgive, and I choose to forgive again and again and again to the best of my ability, because it frees me. It opens me up to love. It opens me up to healthier relationships. It opens me up to freedom. And the journey is not over. It's ongoing. But when I finally got to that point, I said, whoa, healing is possible. I went on this whole journey and I feel free. Do things come up? Things can come up, but I know how to get back to freedom. Or at least I felt free around this experience, these sexual assaults, because I still had more work to do. I didn't get sober until 2.5 years ago. And then that opened up a whole nother layer of things to work on that occurred prior to the sexual assault. As I mentioned, pain didn't begin just in that moment in high school. There were other things because we're layered beings. And there's more to work on. And I choose to do this. I like to do this stuff. I want to be free. I want to feel healthy and my best. And working through these things that can weigh me down, help me to feel my best. So the work continues. But I have found that freedom is possible. And it was from paying attention. It was from listening to my intuition, listening to the wisdom within, really. Noticing the things that call to me. As strange as they may be, go ride my bike around the country, it called to me. Forgive, it called to me. Take tap dance classes, it called to me. And it was exactly what I needed. And maybe there are things calling to you. Nothing I'm saying here is advice. Nothing I'm saying here is your recipe. But I wonder if there's something within you calling to you that could guide you to the next best thing that will help you to find your freedom. You deserve to be free. You're allowed to be free. We all are. And while I'm devastated that anyone, anywhere has to experience or has experienced violence like rape or sexual assault at any age, it's just disgusting and disturbing. I have to highlight this healing journey in case anyone needs to hear it, because I don't want our pain to define our days or our trauma to keep us prisoners, because I was a prisoner for a long time. I literally went to jail. I wasn't a prisoner, but I went to jail. But I was living in such a dark state. You know, I am realizing, because I'm kind of winging this, I have notes, but I'm realizing there are things like triggers I didn't share in the beginning, which was that I was afraid for people to look at me for a time. There was a time I was afraid to leave my home. The smallest thing could make me freeze. I could be on the bus and freeze and not want to get off because I was so triggered. That stuff doesn't hold me hostage anymore. Does it mean the work stops? No. But looking back, there was a time going to the bank and asking for quarters would just like devastate me. I couldn't do it. I was so scared of the world. And now I go with a smile on my face and talk to strangers, and I'm happy to, and I'm free. I'm free from that prison. And there's more, cages I have that I get to dismantle. But freedom is possible, healing is possible, and I really wanted to share this online in case anyone is looking for it. The path might not look like anyone else's, and it might even surprise you. But I was amazed to find what resources were even out there, and the people that could support me and help me, and the ways in which art helped me, the ways in which my intuition guided me, the ways in which traveling helped me, and all these things. It was just step by step by step. I found my way. We all find our way step by step by step. So I hope this story can give you some hope. I hope that it can show you that you have a wisdom within you that's guiding you, and it can show you the way. I hope you know that you're allowed to be healthy and free and happy and well and cared for and nourished and safe. We're all allowed to feel that way. Safe, healthy, happy, well, nourished. And I'm still on my way, right? But this is the reminder that there's a wisdom within that is showing us where to go next. And we get to learn to trust it and receive the benefits of listening to it. So please take care of yourself. Please be well. I wish the best for you and your health and well-being and safety and healing.